when you're interviewing candidates, how do you evaluate how they present themselves, the stories they tell?
After like 3 sentences, you can tell if they like stories or not. You immediately can tell. Big value I'm trying to seek with the candidates is balance. It's a notion of balance. So yes, they have to be good storytellers, but they have to be data-driven.
Is there anything in marketing now that is like a prerequisite for you to hire?
I think you need to be a good listener. I think you need to be empathetic.
What does your interview process look like?
Follow the rule of 4, which is like not more than 4 touch points for the candidate and for us. I used to start every interview with, hey, I hate interviews. My name is Julien. Let's make this not feel like an interview.
Welcome to How I Hire, the podcast where we talk with senior go-to-market leaders about how they find, vet, attract, and grow new talent. I'm Andy Mowat, founder of Whispered. Today, I'm joined by Julien Sauvage. Julien, welcome.
Thanks, Andy. Hi, everybody.
That's great. Well, Julien is CMO at Cordial. Before that, he ran marketing at Clary, Gong, Talend, and Salesforce. He's got this superpower I discovered when I interacted with him at Gong around PMM and brand. And the job he did at Gong to help define the category, tell the story, and engage and build a power. One of the best brands I've ever seen in go-to-market tech was awesome. Julien, ChatGPT even tells me that early on you ran or did data science for Renault's F1 team. I don't think they've ever been in the top league tables, but maybe your data could help them get there. So welcome. It's great to have you, man.
Great to have you, man. Yeah, don't believe GPT ever. But it is true. I did work in Formula One back in the days in France. We're talking, I guess 20 years ago now.
I know. GPT can find all this stuff on us, even the old stuff.
Creepy.
But it's fun to always have like that early experiences, and it's a good one. So do you watch Formula One today, or is that?
I don't. It's completely gone. It was a passion of mine back in the days when I was working with Renault, and I don't know. Since I came to America 2012, I kind of lost track of the F1 stuff. So yeah, I'm not following anymore. Too bad.
No, me neither. I got an earful from my sister, who's a huge Formula One fan. So it's good.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, given how great you are at storytelling, I'd be curious when you're interviewing candidates, how do you evaluate how they present themselves, the stories they tell?
Yeah, I think it starts from the get-go, right? Like like typically you have those like warm-up questions or even like small talk, whatever type thing. And after like 3 sentences, you can tell if they like stories or not. You immediately can tell. If it's like, hey, I'm Julien, how are you doing today? And they'd be like, hey, I'm Jane or John. I'm doing well because the weather is nice and my cat is not sick anymore. Then it's like very flat. But if it's like, hey, I'm Jane or John, and I woke up this morning and I felt awesome. And here's why, because compared to yesterday, this is what I did. And like you start creating that contrast. And then immediately, as I said, after like less than a minute, you can tell if they're like actual good storytellers, even at the most basic, trivial level, right? So I like that. I like kind of like gauging how people interact with me at any point during the interview process, for sure.
I love that. So obviously you run all of marketing at Cordial, and you've run it at other places as well, not just the brand side. What are all the different personalities that you need to hire within marketing, right? Like, is storytelling something that you look for in every candidate for every side of marketing, or is the demand gen side less important? How do you evaluate that side of things for candidates in marketing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a big value I have honestly in life and at work, and a big value I'm trying to seek with the candidates is balance. It's a notion of balance. So I don't think somebody can come in for like a demand gen role and be like, oh, I don't really know the story. I'm just a data number, a number guy or a guy. Like that doesn't work for me. Or at the same time, you have a PMM person or a brand person who's like, I'm great at building stories, but I don't really know the data aspect. Like I also don't buy that. So I think it always works with the left and the right brain, right? So you need to find candidates who can strike some of that balance. So yes, they have to be good storytellers, but they have to be data-driven. Yes, they have to be creative, but they also have to be pragmatic. Yes, they have to be strategic, but they have to, push the pace and work fast. So it's hard to find and it's hard to assess sometimes, but that aspect of like balancing things and the strategy and execution aspect of the brain is something that I really try to assess when I interview people.
I love that. I think you're right, because otherwise you end up with these little silos in marketing that are just no fun.
100%.
How do you, are there skills that are just prerequisites now? Like I'll give you one is, I need basically, if I'm hiring in the RevOps world, I need you to be able to understand SQL and speak in that language and understand the data. Is there anything in marketing now? Maybe it's AI, maybe it's something else, but there's like a prerequisite for you to hire.
It's a good question. I would say I would go with like more a soft skill type of thing. I think you need to be a good listener. I think you need to be empathetic, be attuned to your buyer, your market, and just not be in pitch mode and trying to impress. I think you need to be able to kind of like shut up sometimes and just listen to the trends, listen to the buyer, listen to the prospects, listen to the AEs, like internal, external voices. And then you kind of process all of that stuff. And then you turn that into assets and content and programs and activations and all the things that make marketing great. But it starts with the ability to be a deep, active listener. That's what I think.
I like that. Okay, so taking a step back then, how do you, as you take over CMO at Cordial, how are you thinking about the exec alignment and what is necessary to, before you start building out whatever's missing within your marketing team?
Yeah, I think it's the usual kind of like you need to build the plan and the outcomes before you build the org chart, right? Like it's the what and the why before the who type thing. So I always start with outcomes. I define the 3-5 business outcomes. I come from Salesforce, so there's a pretty well-known kind of framework that people like to refer to sometimes. Sorry if it's going to give you the eye roll, Andy, but it's called V2MOM. I don't know if you've heard that.
I know it all well there.
Yeah, V2MOM, vision, value. That's the V2. Method, obstacles, and measures. I kind of like that, but you can pick your framework of choice. So define your business outcomes, define the 12-month scope or whatever, and then define the decisions that a given exec or a given senior person would own on the team. And once that's done, then you can map the actual team, the org chart, the open heads, the budget, the 30, 60, 90-day tactical plans and whatnot. So it's always starting with the like the last slide first and the end in mind, I guess.
I like that. So how did you, when you took over the team, how did you figure out like where did I need to fill in holes or add to it? How did you evaluate that? And what was your first, if you've made one yet, like senior hire?
Yeah, so like I like scoping the team around 3-4 outcomes. Typically, I like talking about create, capture, and convert demand. Create, capture, convert. It's not new. This is industry lingo, right? I think it was made popular by maybe Refine Labs back in the days. I'm not even sure. So create, capture, convert. So typically I kind of like assess the business and like map basically the KPIs and almost like have a color code, red, yellow, green, across all the sub-dimensions of create, capture, and convert. Create would be how much are we growing our audience on the channels of choice? Is our ICP following us? Is our media share of voice higher than competitors? Are, impressions hitting the mark? Like those are create demand type of measures. Capture would be, are we sourcing pipeline? Are we influencing pipeline? Are deals moving the right way? And then converting demand is basically around, are we, closing enough business? What's our compete win loss? What are the loss reasons and all of that stuff? So once I have all of that kind of like big map, created, then I'm able to, as I said, color code what's going well and what's not. And then once you have the assessment or the diagnosis, if you will, then you're able to say, well, this thing is red. So I'm going to put like dollars against like programs to bridge the gap. This thing, we need a head count. So I'm going to open a new head count next month. And this thing is green. So I'm just going to continue doing that. But it really starts again with kind of like the high level business scorecard. And then you fill the gaps with people or programs.
How do you think about, obviously fractional is a big portion of marketing, or at least a lot of if you think of like where do people use agencies and things like that, marketing's probably one of the biggest.
Yeah.
How do you think about full-time hires, AI outsourcing versus fractional when you're thinking about your team design?
Yeah, it's such a tricky question, right? I think it really, really depends on the function. I would say there's a few key functions that I wouldn't give to a consultant or like a fractional person. And that might be controversial. Maybe people will hate me for that, but it's fine. I stand by it. I think you need to have an intimacy with your company and with your execs and with your brand to own things like corporate marketing, brand marketing, even PMM. Those are really hard things to outsource. Now, if you have a head of PMM in-house, then that person might want to hire a PMM consultant to go and like create a bunch of PMM assets and own the next product launch and release marketing and all of that. But I fundamentally believe that the story you're going to tell to the market is going to be just better told if it's told by somebody who is completely 100% invested in the company today and who's a full-time employee. So
I by the way, I 100% agree with that.
do?
I don't think,
Yeah.
I don't think fractional can do that. I think there are certain areas like within RevOps, I always said, I'm totally fine outsourcing the technical build, but not the strategy of what will that object do and what are the business requirements. And I think it might be similar. It's like the production in marketing, I feel like could be out, but the strategy, that stuff needs to live with the company.
Yeah. It's not just, I agree. It's not to say that like consultants cannot be strategic and they're always like, they're just like order takers and they're just executing on the strategy that in-house person would have dictated, right? I don't think that's the case. I think you get poor results and outcome if you just outsource the tactical last mile type stuff with your agency. It doesn't work that way. It has to be like every strategic person has to execute and every person executing has to go up to the strategy level, right? That's the way. But I think it's more in terms of like, you got to breathe and leave the values of the company and really embrace the voice of the company. And there's no real better way of doing that than being the full-time employee. That's kind of, it's less at the strategy or execution level. And it's more at the deep, almost like identity level. Like I'm a full-time employee at this company. As such, I'm going to care even more. And then I'm going to carry both strategy and execution forward. And I'm going to do that maybe with external consultants or not.
Is there anything default that you bring in external folks for?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I try to have in-house design and creative marketers, but if it's, I know these are always a little more hard to get from a headcount standpoint because your CEO doesn't quite see the value of a beautifully designed asset unless they come from marketing themselves. And so, whenever there's a headcount, it's easier to get a campaign person than a designer. It just is. So because of that, it's sad but true, right? I tend to work with design agencies and creative agencies a lot for sure. PMM consultants sometimes for like one-off projects, as I said. I like to not outsource the demand aspect as much, nor the content aspect as much because of that DNA, like belief. An identity thing I just mentioned. So yeah, it kind of depends on kind of like the function. We're outsourcing all the MOPS aspect today at Cordial, all the marketing ops, and that's going really, really well. I'm really happy with the agency helping me there with all the Salesforce backend stuff and all the jobs and whatnot. So it kind of depends on the scope and the function, to be honest.
That's interesting on MOPS. I have a 150 million ARR company I advise. And they outsource everything in MOPS.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, and the answer is every problem, you always hear if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
They're kind of on everything is solvable by HubSpot custom builds. So they built so they have a system where they add 1 million signups a month. And they'll add them all in and then they'll remove them all to keep underneath the contract. And I'm just like, that's not scalable.
Yeah. No, for sure. Sometimes like MOPS can be over engineered, especially if it's like outsourced. And then it just becomes very like patchy and doesn't scale. But for our scale of the business and where we are today, I'm fine outsourcing the thing, and my strategy, my consultant is very strategic, so it's working.
I love it. You want to give a shout out on who a good consultant is? Any good consultants?
His name is Elliot, and he has a consulting gig called Digital Rubik's. They're all like Salesforce implementation and ninjas type consultants. They're great.
Well, hi, Elliot. We'll definitely send some business your way then. Sure. Okay, so say you have a senior role on your team. Do you post? I know you and I actually met right as you were joining, and so you understood the concept of whispered and whispered roles. Like, do you post those roles? Do you work them through your network? Do you work them through your recruiter, like your VCs? How do you find senior, to call them like VP or up roles?
Yeah, it's a little sad, but I rarely post VPs and I don't hire for C-level myself because I'm a C-level myself, but I rarely post for VP roles. For sure, the inbound really comes from, or like the demand, I guess, the candidates come from targeted outreach, from operators network. A little bit like my personal brand. I'm an active LinkedIn contributor, like you are, and like many. But it's oftentimes not like posted, which I know isn't great. But hey, that's why you created Whispered in the first place, right? So
that's exactly right. I mean, I think it's like we deep down want to, but it's like I've watched these people get 2,000-3,000 applications. If you were to post that on LinkedIn, given your brand, it helps you, but it also can make it really hard. And it's like, your talent team can spend their time saying no to unqualified people versus finding those gems in the first place. So it's like spearfish. Yeah. It's what we've all dealt with AVM, right? It's spearfishing versus like just casting this huge net and dealing with a lot of things that don't fit. So
I'll tell you, man, like the last time we posted, it was, we posted last week. There was a new open role on my team. So PSA on this one. But the one before was, I believe, in May or June or something. And it was like a senior manager level. So like not super senior, but not junior either, kind of like in between. We got over 3,000 applicants, and we're not OpenAI, we're Cordial. Our brand is good, but we're not like as massive as others. So, and then of course, what that means is that you have to sift through all these resumes. It's a ton of work and time for me, for the talent person. It's a lot of like disappointment for the candidates, and it just seems like not the best use of anybody's time. So it's also from a brand perspective too. You're saying no to 22,994 of exactly.
them. They're like, God damn it, Cordial.
Those Cordial guys and gals. Yeah.
So it feels like on all dimensions, it's a broken system. We're trying to fix it in the right way. And I'm sure we'll take some arrows, but every role that a company gives us that we can push outside our walls anonymously is really fun.
Yeah. I think you're really onto something for sure. It's been a while. I remember I had early access to the platform back in the days. You might remember, Andy, like back in, forgotten now, October, maybe November, something like that last year. And it looked promising, but I haven't looked at the latest product. I'm sure it's evolved and it's gotten way better now.
No, we'll geek out on it. Okay, so so you let's just use that 3,000 people as an example. Somebody wants to get through to you, Julien. Yeah. How can they break through? There's obviously the front door, you apply there, but I think everyone says don't apply to the front door. What if like the most creative way anyone's ever gotten to you and like broken down a door to get to you as a candidate?
Yeah, I think warm introductions still help a lot for sure, and referrals. If I get an intro from somebody I respect talking about that person I should talk to, that's going to put that candidate up in the pile for sure. I do look at the less the roles and more like the companies and the brands, to be honest. It's kind of like, even if I'd rather hire like a manager level person at an awesome company than a director person who was at a company that was not really growing. Like I'd rather do what's the word again? Small fish in a big pond, or in a fast pond, rather than the big fish in a small pond type thing. So I take a look at all these things, referrals, as I said. And then like, honestly, sometimes people do surprise me with their creativity in their outreach. And then I just have to give them a shot. Like, not necessarily go talk to them, but I would pass their resume on to the TA person and be like, hey, that person like, it's obvious. It's not just AI bullshit. It's like they really they spent time thinking about the role, thinking about the company, thinking about how it would work, how it would be to work with me. And because of that time they obviously invested, we should, pay them a little respect and at least take a look at their resume.
I love that. You said something interesting around valuing the companies they're at. I'm big on that. I think we coach a lot of people. Like, listen, if you've had 4 no-name companies in a row, it's going to get harder and harder and harder as you go. Yeah. I oftentimes will tell people, like, listen, if you have a bunch of no-names, go take a step down to go to give your name. I'm seeing a lot of people do that in this market, and it will help. And then if you're really good and you can rise at that company, and you can kind of make that up and more. But I do agree. We actually are AI. Every one of the 1,000 or so people that are applying to Whispered every month, it goes out and it looks at the companies they've worked at, how long they've worked at them, are they investor backed, what are the followers on those, and so we're trying to proxy that. But I think it's definitely something that matters. I had a VC talent partner. We send them like people in our exec directory, and they said, I need to see the last 2 companies they've been at. And I was like, wow, okay. So it's like, these do matter. And if you're at no-name companies, I think a lot of people mispick a couple times. I mean, you've done the opposite, which is you picked like amazing brands. One thing I do also find though is people can take a risk. Like if you've been in great brands, you can go somewhere that is maybe not as great, take a risk. And if that pays off, then you could take, like I did that at Culture Amp, where I was like at Box, and I'm like, okay, I went to Culture Amp, it was 4 million and 5 million in revenue, and we turned it into a unicorn, and then that paid off for me. And so I do think you can take those risks, but you can't keep missing on brands, on companies.
Bingo on the risk aspect. Like, I gotta say, yes, like now, after the fact, cool, Salesforce, Gong, Clary, all these companies look amazing. But when I joined Gong from Talend, it was a leap of faith. It really was. Back in 2020, Gong was small. I was a VP at Talend, publicly traded company. I had a team of 25 PMMs. And then Gong was like, hey, I'm going to have a team of 3 people, and I don't really know. And the brand is whimsical and weird, but I like it. Like, it was a leap of faith. It was a risky bet, but it paid off, right? So I think there's something to be said about, yes, it's the brands you worked with, but also were you able to take a meaningful bet or a risky bet, and did that pay off after? Like, that's a big signal for me.
What gave you the confidence to take that bet with Gong?
I don't know, man. That's such a good question.
I'll tell you, for me at Culture Amp, it was I basically looked at their NPS, and it was off the charts. Yeah. And I looked at their HubSpot instance, and the number of people signing up for just things was just mind-boggling. So I said to myself, I can run inbound at scale. I can basically optimize the funnel for the next 2 years and look like a hero. Yeah. So for me, it was a metrics-based bet. Plus, the person I would work for was really good. But I'd be curious, it's like, was there anything? Because we tell people to take risks, but like you and I took them and they paid off. I'm sure there are people that do and don't. But like, was it Udi? Was it Aaron? Was it like who? Where was it? Was it Amit or somebody like that?
Yeah. I was a big fan of Elon, one of the co-founders with Amit, the product guy, right? His CPO is still his CPO today. And Udi, so like the people aspect for sure. And like, I knew that like that Israeli tech scene was very vibrant and just like shipping stuff really, really fast. So that was like a good signal. I liked the brand from what I could see. It was a little out there and crazy. And they did the Super Bowl thing after I joined, so that was not even there. But yeah, the brand, the people. And I came from Salesforce, so I kind of came from that space. I knew what was broken, like what workflows we wish we had back then. And so the fact that Gong, at least in the V1 of their products, like basically a call recording type of product, right? I knew that was really solving for a tangible, palpable pain that Salesforce couldn't solve for. So I felt the PMF right away. So people, brand, and PMF were like the reasons why I made the jump.
I love it. I saw that the world was going to change with recording. I just picked the wrong horse and been on chorus. But I've now become friends with all the Gong people.
There you go.
I don't know. And I don't know if you were part of it, but that SF Jazz like small event was one of the most amazing events I've ever been.
That was right before I joined. I remember with I think Steve Kerr was there, maybe, right?
I think it was, but it was
coach.
Like I'm shocked that more people don't rent that space out. It's such a great space.
I go there. I'm a jazz lover. Side note, but I love jazz and I love SF Jazz. If you're in SF or in the Bay Area, go check out SF Jazz. That's my shameless plug. I think it's a fantastic venue.
I'm gonna go check it out again. But and for any event people, two of my favorite spaces in San Francisco, the ferry terminal. We've done that twice for different events. And the cruise ship terminal, not the ferry terminal. And then the SF Jobs are just great, small, intimate events.
Ferry building is cool too. I attended an event that was hosted by User Gems and SQL.io last week, the second floor of the ferry building in SF. And I didn't know it was open. And it was great. It was awesome. Everybody had a good time. It was a really great venue.
I love it. Well, let's shift to interview process. Like, what does your interview process look like? Do you have beliefs and philosophies on how to run a great interview process?
Of course I do. Yeah. I like, let's see. I think the headline is I want the experience to be joyful and valuable for the candidate as much as for us on the hiring side. It shouldn't be something that stresses you out. It shouldn't be something where you feel like you have to show up and be all scripted and perfect and all of that BS. Like I hate that. So I think my process tries to follow the rule of 4, which is like not more than 4 touch points for the candidate and for us, so that it's, reasonable. It's work on both sides, but it's not crazy amount of work. And we can kind of keep the timeline pretty short, right? So typically screen interview with the TA person, then hiring manager interview, and then another cross-functional interview, and then a panel with like a one-to-few type of presentation. And typically that's it. If we need to have the person go and interview like the CEO or the co-founder, cool, then it'll be a rule of 5, but that's kind of it. So trying to like streamline the process, keep it light and fun on both sides, very cross-functional. Marketers are just meant to be connectors, right? They're just people. And so as such, I try to bring in CS and sales and product into the panels or into the hiring process. So that's kind of my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type of like touch point process. And then I'd say throughout, I try to set the tone. And I don't really do that anymore. Maybe I should, but like I used to start every interview with, hey, I hate interviews. My name is Julien. Let's make this not feel like an interview, because interviews are fake. They're scripted. They're disgusting. And you're not going to, give me the best version of yourself. And I will not give you the best version of myself. So let's just like chill a little bit, remove any hat and be ourselves. Okay. And candidates like that. And now they feel like, their shoulders drop and they can just be themselves. So that's my high level. Try to push for more authenticity and less corporate bullshit.
I love that. I mean, honestly, if you make a candidate comfortable, they may share stuff that they wouldn't otherwise. And so I will take people out to lunch. I'll take people to a restaurant. I'll just have let's get to know each other type of thing.
For sure.
So I like that a lot.
Well, guess what? You're going to be working with that person. So like, if you don't like them as a person, then you're going to be miserable. They're going to be miserable. It's not going to work out, right? So you got it. The person stuff has to work.
Yeah. Okay. So you don't use that interview question anymore. Do you have a favorite interview question now, Julien?
Do I have a favorite interview question? Yeah. I mean, it kind of depends on the scope and the work and the function, to be honest. But I like, for marketing, there's too many like safe marketers out there. So I typically like asking things like, what's the riskiest bet you've taken? Or what's the biggest failure you've faced? Or something like that. Something that would show me their boldness and bold thinking, but also their self-awareness and ability to like, self-reflect on the wins and the failures. So I like to keep it really high level and ask these questions. If it's not a marketing person, like I happen to be doing a one-on-one with like the next CRO or whatever, I would be asking more about like transformation type of questions. Like, tell me about a time you changed your company's narrative and your company's trajectory and how you measured impact while doing that. So more like the before and after type of story.
I love that, man. That is really cool. I'm sure as a marketer, you're thinking a lot about AI. You can't have a podcast now without talking about it. But do you use AI at all in the interview process at Cordial?
Yeah, you know what, man? I was thinking about this as I was prepping for it. And I was like, I'm going to be honest with you. We actually don't use AI during the interview process. Maybe the talent acquisition people use AI to like streamline like candidate resume screening and whatnot. I, as an HM or as part of the hiring process, I actually don't use AI. I would, maybe it's a mistake, but yeah, I still try to keep it very like human interaction based. I do have my scorecard and I have like a system in place, if you will. So it's a mix of qualitative and quantitative assessment, but there's no real AI as part of it yet.
The best one I heard so far, we had the COO of Fathom on, and he said he asks a question, something to the effect of, I'll have to listen to it. I'll send it to you too, but it was a really good one. He basically asked something around what would the people that you worked with say the most about you, and tell me who those people would be. And then he uses the AI to source the references he asks for at the end. And then when he asks those references, he'll say things like, hey, so-and-so said you'd actually give them a 6 out of 10 on this thing. And then that opens the people up from only saying good things to opening up bad things. So I thought that was a really good use of AI.
That's a cool use case. Well, you could argue you could do that without AI. You can just get back to your notes. But yeah, for sure, AI as a summary mechanism is helpful. What I will say though is I always ask questions about AI. Like I want to get to concrete examples of how they use AI in their day-to-day workflows today, whether we're talking marketing or sales or RevOps or CS or what have you. I wouldn't hire somebody who's not AI curious or AI literate today. Like that's just not going to happen.
I would agree. Yeah. I think those people that are not trying it, playing with it, using it, particularly in marketing, it's like, I don't know how you produce a piece of content without running it through, checking it, and seeing if it can be better. Probably most of your design are there too. Do you have any fun processes, given how passionate you are on stories and authenticity, any fun ways to close a candidate that you've seen work really well, or like anything fun there?
To close it, like to do a little bit of selling to close them, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think I try to be very real, like just very honest. Like that's how I am anyway, whether you like it or not. Like it's just, I'm French, right? Like I just tell you how it is. And if you don't like it, cool, you can keep walking and goodbye. So I try to paint the real mission, be very real about like, hey, this is not like a dream job, because there's no dream job. Like that's just a myth. It does not exist. Here's where the company is at today. There's awesome stuff and there's challenges. And I'll just try to like give them the real good, bad, and ugly, I guess, reality view of the company. And then I also try to be very, like put myself in their shoes and be like, if I were you, this is how I would tackle the first 90 days. And this is what I expect from you. So that way they see that I'm like being a little like empathetic and I put myself in their shoes and they're able to really, like know what the first couple of days and weeks would look like. I think that's how I've managed to kind of close them. It's basically by being very, very honest and transparent and on what works, what doesn't, and the actual expectations of the job. I remove all the fluffy stuff and the mission-driven stuff when it shouldn't be there. I try to be, I guess, approachable, authentic, and casual about it.
I love that, man. I love how direct you are. It's really refreshing. Hey, I'm the same. I just wear my emotions on the sleeve. Okay. So you talked a little bit in the last answer on first 90 days. Like, how do you make new hires, particularly senior ones, successful? And where have you maybe seen them go off the rails or surprise you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think the 30, 60, 90 day thing has become completely commoditized, right? It was like the best selling book 10 years ago. And now you just go to GPT and you can have a good solid 30, 60, 90 day plan. And by the way, everybody's going to have the exact same one kind of. So, when you think about that as a candidate, really think through your 30, 60, 90 days. I think so net, there's no real playbook. Like it's hard to find repeatable things. But I've seen people, like the stuff that I've seen go off the rails would be people spending too much time in strategy land and just like craft the perfect plan, but also like take so much time that they wouldn't have one or two quick wins under their belt, right?
Yeah.
And like there's impatience in tech, and your CEO has to be impatient. That's the nature of the job. I'm rather impatient myself as a person. Like I want to see the results. And so I try to guide and coach my new hires to kind of like, again, balance, back to that notion of balancing things. Balance, like, yes, strategic thinking and long-term planning and being transformative and changing things with like 2, 3, 4 awesome quick wins they can point at in the next 6 months. And I think that's the recipe for success or for failure. If you stay in strategy land, people are going to think you're too slow. And if you stay in just like execution mode, then people think you're not strategic enough.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's the first 90 days. But I think what you said is the 30, 60, 90 commoditized by GPT is not something I thought about. But you're right. It's like everyone's just going to feed it in there and it's going to get it. And then we wove AI into the podcast in some way.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we did.
Well, Julien, thank you so much. This is amazing. I love that every year or so we connect and the journey that you're on is amazing. I think you're one of these marketers that's I've been touched by your marketing at many of the companies I've been at. So thank you so much. And I'm excited to share this with other folks.
Thanks for having me, Andy. Good stuff.